Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is actually going to be the last episode of the championship roundup of this season, guys. This season has gone ridiculously quick and it's all been concluded now. Of course, we still do have the playoffs which are yet to come, but in terms of the regular championship season, it's all been concluded now, guys. And this final weekend of championship action, we had a lot of drama to go ahead and discuss. So if you've not seen this series before, let me quickly explain what it's all about. So every week, guys, I give you my championship, basically a bit of analysis of what I thought of each game going on in the championship. But what I'd be really interested to know is what you guys thought of the final weekend. So make sure you do get your comments in the comments down below for how well you thought your team performed and everyone else's for that matter as well. And as well as that, guys, what I would love to know from you guys is what do you think was the goal of the weekend and what was the result of the weekend. I'll be revealing what I thought they were at the end of the video, but I'll be interested to know what you guys had to say. So guys, just before we do get into any of my analysis of the final weekend games, guys, I will include your comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict any of the scorelines going on this weekend, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who did get a scoreline correct this weekend. For the final weekend, none of my score predictions were correct. However, I did get quite a few of the results right. I just didn't get the correct scoreline. So I was quite close with a couple of them, but others I was pretty far away. So guys, our first game that we have to talk about is Aston Villa, who came up against Brighton, and Brighton fans, oh no, Brighton fans just must be absolutely devastated after this one, because this one did finish Aston Villa 1, Brighton 1, and of course this did mean with Newcastle winning that Newcastle went on to win the league, which we'll get to in a little bit. But Brighton fans must have been absolutely devastated, and for this one, you know, a draw was probably a fair result in this game, because I didn't think Brighton were brilliant in this one. They looked a little bit nervous early on in the game, and honestly, Villa were very unlucky perhaps not to go on and win this game. David Stockdale, I thought, for Brighton was absolutely excellent for them in this game, but in terms of other chances, Villa missed a catalogue of chances in this game. I couldn't believe really how many they actually missed. The penalty that Brighton got as well was quite dubious. I'm not really overly convinced it was a penalty, but Murray managed to convert that nevertheless, and of course Baker then did get a red card for that. But it was in the 89th minute when Jack Grealish managed to get the leveller for Aston Villa, which secured Newcastle the title. So my question to Brighton fans is, are you bothered that you've lost out on the title? Because of course you will still be going up to the Premier League. It's still been a phenomenal season, but are you a little bit saddened now? Has that put a bit of a dampener on the season that you've not gone ahead and actually won the championship? Let me know down below. And then to another side who is definitely going to be ending the season on a low note, that is of course Blackburn Rovers, who have now been relegated to League One. And it was in unfortunate circumstances as well, that's got to be said, considering they did actually do their job on the final day, as they did get a 3-1 victory over Brentford. And it's got to be said, actually, Blackburn actually played very well in this game. I think I've got to give quite a few plaudits to them. In the first half especially, they were really going for Brentford. You know, they knew they were going to need the goals in this one, and there were so many twists and turns with other goals being scored in other matches that at times it looked like Blackburn would stay up, and then other times it looked like they would be going down. But Blackburn managed to open the scoring with Charlie Mulgrew with an absolutely sublime free kick. Definitely contender for goal of the weekend. It was an absolute peach of a goal. But in the first half, I thought Brentford were a little bit disappointing. They showed a reaction in the second half. VB managed to get a goal back, but Conway wrapped up the 3 points for Blackburn with the penalty in the 83rd minute. But overall, it was for nothing, and Blackburn have been relegated on goal difference. So of course, they're going into League One, really not in the best of circumstances either. I would be quite surprised if Blackburn were to bounce straight back up and get back into the championship. The reason I say that is because I think they'll lose the majority of the squad they've already got there, and with the Venky's being in charge and everything like that, I think it could be a bit of a downward spiral for Blackburn. And then from one side who did get relegated to a side which managed to avoid it, that was of course Birmingham City, who thanks to the 3 points collected in this game against Bristol City, managed to ensure their championship status for another season. So of course Harry Redknapp coming into the job after the absolute train wreck which was Zola in charge of Birmingham, but he's managed to salvage them, and fair play to Birmingham for survival in the championship. It was Che Adams who got the only goal of this game after some questionable defending by Bristol City. I think it's got to be said. I thought Aidan Flint, you know, Che Adams absolutely tied Aidan Flint up in knots. I thought he should have done better for the goal that was scored, but in the end that was actually enough for them. I was a little bit disappointed in Bristol City for this game, considering how good they've been at home going forward recently. I was expecting maybe a bit more for them going forward, you know, with players like, it'll be Tammy Abraham's last game for Bristol City in this one, so maybe I was expecting a bit more from them. Fair play to Birmingham, they managed to avoid the drop. And then to our next game, guys, we had a crazy game going on between Burton Albion and Reading, where in the end this one managed to finish 4-2 to Reading. It was just it was a very bizarre game, I think it's fair to be said. I think in this game especially, there were a lot of scrappy goals that were scored in and around the box. There was some questionable defender as well, I think it's fair to say. I mean, Reading fans, let me know down in the comments down below, how do you think your form is going into the playoffs? Because Reading have been a really funny side this season. I can't quite put my finger on it, but what I think is most odd about going into the playoffs actually is that I think the team which people seem to be backing the least is Reading, who finished highest in the playoffs, and the team which people seem to be backing the most is Fulham, who finished lower. So that's a bit of a weird one, in my opinion, but of course Reading are going to be going on to play Fulham in the playoffs, so Reading fans, let me know down below, how do you fancy your chances for that game? But Obita as well in this game scored an absolute cracker of a goal, fantastic goal from him, but overall Reading got the 3 points, a nice way to end the season. And then to our next game, guys, we had Huddersfield, who came up against Cardiff City. And in this one, Cardiff managed to go ahead and get a 3-0 victory. I've got to say, this was a scoreline that not a lot of people were anticipating, myself included. This was just a really bizarre one, and of course Huddersfield recently been involved with quite a lot of drama after they made a lot of changes to that game they had against Birmingham, and they obviously went on to lose that game. In this game, they were looking like, you know, they were going into it with a much more strengthened team. They were going to win pretty much like a full strength team going into this one, and Cardiff just absolutely managed to dismantle them. So Huddersfield fans, let me know down below what your mentality is going into the playoffs. Of course, you will be missing your goalkeeper as well, Danny Ward, who will be out for the start of the playoffs thanks to him getting the red card for handling the ball outside of the area. But in terms of Cardiff, I've got to give a lot of credit for them. You know, they were absolutely efficient in this game. It was Zahore and Bennett with the goals in this one. They were just absolutely ruthless going forward. Huddersfield as well did have chances, but they just couldn't seem to convert them. And a really funny one for Huddersfield in this one. Huddersfield, let me know down below, do you fancy your chances in the playoffs? And then for our next game, guys, we had Newcastle United, who came up against Barnsley, and to a lot of people's surprise, it's got to be said, Newcastle have won the championship title. So fair play to all the Newcastle fans who do watch these videos. Fair play to you, you have won the championship. And was it deserved? I don't know, let me know down below if you guys thought it was deserved, but they have managed to do that. And in this game against Barnsley, for the large majority of it, I thought they were quite comfortable, really. Of course, the goal that Perez scored to kick things off was an absolutely sublime goal, such a cheeky flick into the bottom corner. But Barnsley, of course, they did actually have quite a few chances in this game, especially when Newcastle went 2-0 up. Barnsley had a lot of opportunities to pull it back and make it 2-1, and then, you know, maybe that could be a different game then. But Dwight Gill wrapped up the 3 points in the 90th minute and managed to make it 3-0 to Newcastle, and in the end they managed to secure the championship title. And I actually remember doing a prediction video back in, I think it was January, when I predicted how I think the rest of the championship season would unfold. And I just said in that video, I thought I had a cheeky inkling that Newcastle would still go on and win the championship, and I got a little bit of stick for that, you know, later on in the season when it was looking like Brighton would do it. But in the end, my visions came true for that, and Newcastle have gone on to win the championship, so fair play to Newcastle. And then for our next game, guys, we had Norwich City, who came up against QPR, and in the end, Norwich managed to leave with the 4-0 victory over QPR and sign the season off on a bit of a high note. On what has been quite a disappointing season for Norwich on the whole, they've actually ended the season very well in my opinion, and setting themselves up for a good, you know, campaign next season, perhaps with a couple more additions. I think Norwich will be up there next season. And for this game, QPR weren't really on the tempo. You know, they of course managed to ensure survival a couple of weeks ago, so I suppose you can sort of forgive them for not putting in 100% for this game. But they just really allowed Norwich's creative players too much space, especially around the edge of the box. And if you do that against a side like Norwich, with the quality that they've got, they're always going to punish you. You know, this was of course John Ruddy's last game for Norwich, so it'll be interesting to see actually what Norwich do over the summer, because next season it could be their year. And then for another side who managed to ensure their championship survival, we had Nottingham Forest, who came up against Ipswich Town, and Nottingham Forest managed to secure the 3-0 victory over Ipswich. And a lot has to be credited. Well, this was actually quite a funny game. I was watching this game live, and I did sense there were quite a few nerves going around the City ground, and of course understandably so. But early on in this game, I didn't actually think Ipswich were too bad, you know. Considering it did end 3-0 in the end, I think that might be a little bit harsh on Ipswich, perhaps, as early on in the game, they, of course, did have quite a few opportunities to go ahead and take the lead, but Forest got a penalty at the best possible time, just before half-time, and Aston managed to dispatch that. He, of course, got another penalty as well in the second half, which he did then go on to miss, but he managed to rectify that by scoring the third goal in this game. The goal that Chris Cohen scored as well was an absolute belter into the back of the net. Aston second goal was sublime as well. He just powered it up into the roof of the net, but really that penalty, that first half goal did come at just the right time for Forest, as after that they seemed to play with a sense of freedom, really, and like the shackles were sort of off as soon as they did get that first goal, and Forest will be in the Championship for another season, so congratulations to all the Forest fans. And then for the next game we had, guys, we had Rotherham United, who came up against Derby County, and I think a lot of credit actually has to be given to Paul Werner at Rotherham United, because their recent form actually has been very good indeed, you know. Ever since it was official that Rotherham were relegated, they've actually not been a bad side this season in the Championship, you know. Out of their last 3 games, they've won 1 and drawn 2. That's a great little bit of form to take into League One, where they'll obviously be rebuilding and looking to get back into the Championship. But on this one, of course, Derby really were off the pace. It took a Torrens penalty to ensure they didn't lose this game on the last day of the season. So a little bit of a low to finish the season on, but I think with a good summer and a good manager like Derby have got, next season could be their year. And then for our next game, guys, we had a game full of drama in this one. We had Sheffield Wednesday, who came up against Fulham, and in the end, Fulham managed to leave with the 2-1 victory. And for this one, I've got to say, I thought that it was a deserved victory for Fulham, really. You know, they had a catalogue of chances in this one and probably should have made it more than 2-1 in my opinion. However, it does have to be said that Sheffield Wednesday made a lot of changes for this game, and of course, understandably so, with them going into the playoffs. You know, it's interesting to see actually how these two sides will fare in the playoffs now, because Fulham have chosen not to rest anyone going into the playoffs, and Sheffield Wednesday have chosen to rest players. So of course, it'll be an interesting one seeing how these teams actually fare. But in terms of Fulham, it was Cabano with 2 excellent goals, which managed to secure the victory for them. And Matthias got a red card for Sheffield Wednesday for a reckless challenge. And in the end, like I said, I thought it was a fair result. These two teams, let me know down below, how do you think your chances are of going into the playoffs? I'll be very interested to know. And then for our next game, guys, we had Wigan Athletic, who came up against Leeds United. And in the end, this one managed to finish as a 1-1 draw. So to a lot of Leeds fans' disappointment, they didn't go ahead and win this game 14-0 and somehow miraculously end up in the playoffs, even though of course Fulham did win this weekend anyway. But I thought the main drama actually coming out of this game was that Charlie Taylor, the left back from Leeds United, actually refused to play for this game. Gary Monk said that the player has been poorly advised in his opinion. Of course, I think his contract is running out at the end of the season, so he refused to play this game. So Leeds fans, let me know down below what you think of that whole situation. But in terms of how this game was, it did sort of have that end of season feeling, really. Wigan actually weren't too bad. It was quite a high note to finish the season on, really, getting a point against a side like Leeds United. But overall, it wasn't the best of games. Finished 1-1 in the end. And then from one of those games to another, we had Wolves, who came up against Preston. And this once again was a game which definitely had that end of season feeling. And I mean, Preston, this one just got off to the worst possible start, conceding a goal after like 90 seconds of this game. It was Danny Bath who gave Wolves the lead in this game after just about 90 seconds or something like that. The goal came from a corner. The guy headed the ball into the back of the net, and he didn't even need to jump to get this goal, which is just awful defending from Preston. And I mean, Preston have really left this season on a bit of a sour note. Our form at the end of the season has been diabolical, and that once again was on show in this game. I'm going to say Wolves should have had more than 1 goal in this game. You know, they should have had 3, 4, maybe even 5 goals. With the amount of chances that Wolves had in this game, and the amount of good chances as well that they were able to carve out, I don't know how this one finished 1-0. Preston going forward as well were very limp, so it's been a disappointing end to what has been a good season in my opinion for Preston. So as for my goal of the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Charlie Mulgrew for his sublime free kick he scored against Brentford. Of course, in the end it didn't mean anything, as of course Blackburn were still relegated, but that free kick was absolutely class. And then for my result of the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Nottingham Forest for getting that 3-0 victory over Ipswich. Of course, they needed to get a victory in this one to ensure survival, and in the end they managed to do it in style. So my result of the weekend weekend is going to be Nottingham Forest. So guys, to wrap up this video, I will show you the Championship League table. So there is how the Championship has now finished. So as we can see, Newcastle have finished as champions. The team making up the playoffs, we have Reading, Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield and Fulham. And I must say I will be doing some prediction videos going into the playoffs, so make sure you guys do stay tuned for that. And then in the end, the teams relegated, we have Blackburn, Wigan and Rotherham, guys. So that will now wrap it up for this video, guys. So thank you so much for all your continued support throughout the whole of this Championship season. It honestly has been absolutely mental, guys. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So make sure you do leave a like if you have enjoyed. It is always massively appreciated. And make sure you check out all the links in the description down below. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.